PXG has done it again with the launch of a new lineup of drivers, fairways, hybrids, and irons. The new Gen 5 golf clubs deliver significantly increased MOI, faster ball speeds, longer distances, and tighter dispersions, all coupled with the exceptional feel and sound golfers have come to expect from PXG. Schedule your custom fitting or buy online at pxg.com. And we're back, Stripe Show podcast on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. Got a podcast for you today, Shriners Children Open. We're going to break it down, all things gambling, who we like, who we don't like. Thank you for last week. Record numbers on a Tuesday. You guys are kind of digging this gambling thing, which I appreciate. And I got to say, last week was one of the best weeks I've had in quite some time. And so that was fun to feel like I actually gave some decent advice. And Geoff Fienberg was on. So it was a good show last Tuesday. We appreciate the numbers. We're back again here this week. We are going to run it all back again. We're going to give you some great picks. I'm going to fly out to Las Vegas right after this podcast. I'm going to be on site doing some stuff for The Cut, which is a show airs on Golf Channel on Tuesday. Cool show. So I'll give you more as that comes about. Joining me today, Christopher Powers with Golf Digest at CPowers14 on Twitter. How you doing, bud?
Very good. I didn't realize Fienberg was on last week. That's a tough act to follow. I'm a big fan of Geoff's.
Yeah, he does a good job, and you're right there with him, man. I mean, you're right there with him. This is gambling. This is handicap. You're going to have your good weeks. You're going to have your bad weeks. Last week we had a good week, which was nice. And I think we're going to have another good week this week. I'm not only going to have a good week here on the podcast and in my outright bets and top 20s, but I'm also going to have a good week on the craps table as well out there in Vegas. What's your game? What do you like to play?
Man, I've never played craps, and every time I tell people that, they're like, "Oh my God, it's the best! It's the most fun! It's great for a group." So I gotta get on that. I'm just straight up blackjack type guy, so kind of the easiest one to understand for me. But I'd love to graduate to craps next time I make it to a real casino.
Well, there's so many ways you can play it. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of different options that you can play. Now, I like to get out there on the point. I like to place the 6 and the 8. And then once in a while, I'll continue to come out and try to get on the other numbers. And when you play it that way, you can have a lot of money out there, right? You can have a lot of different bets, so you're exposed. And then the idea is to repeat the numbers. I can remember playing in college. Quick story before we get into this. We were playing in Turlock, Northern California, by Modesto, and we got done, and we drove back through Reno, and we stayed in Reno. And one of my good friends on the team, he's never played craps before, but he wanted to learn. And I said, all right, well, I'll show you how to play. I said, let's go in, half. I'll put 100 in, you put 100 in. And so I got the chips, and I'm trying to pay attention, but explain to him what's going on. And so, I get out there and, there's a 7. Oh, we just lost $50. All right. Okay. No, hold on. All right. And then it literally, like in 10 minutes, I was like, you got another 100. We got to get back in on the game. He's like, I didn't learn a damn thing. And lost $100. I said, well, that's how craps is. And sure enough, you play it long enough, and then you start hitting numbers and you get it back. But eventually they're going to get your money.
Yeah.
Like anything else. So I like craps. I like Let It Ride too. I've had some success with that game. Now let's get into the golf. That's why people are here. Shriners Children Open. I really like this tournament a lot. TPC Summerlin, really a fun golf course, a good golf course up there in Las Vegas. TPC Las Vegas is right there. Back in my PGA Tour Academy days, we had an academy out there at TPC Las Vegas. So I know this area pretty well. And Summerlin's is a great property. It's a golf course that's going to yield a lot of birdies here as we start looking at some of the statistics that are going to be important this week. I'll start, Christopher. I'll give you a few that I'm kind of looking at, and then share with me some of the things that you're looking at. But when you look at the previous winners here, and you look at a Sung J M, of course, who won last year at 24 under, and then a Martin Laird, who went to UNLV -23, a Kevin Na, who lives in Vegas, at -23. That's the last I'm going to talk about Kevin Na on this podcast. Bryce DeChambeau in 2018, -21. Cantley, who's in the field, was -9 actually, but most of the time these guys are getting into the mid-20s. So first and foremost, we've got to have a guy that's going to make some birdies. We got to have a guy that's going to have a lot of opportunities. And 3 par 5s, 2 of them, I think, you can get some eagles here. But we need to go like under, right? We need opportunities. We need birdies. So those are a few stats that I'm going to be looking at, and of course, approach play is going to be a huge part of that. Give me some other areas that are important to you.
Yeah, approach and putting seems like the name of the game here, especially when you look at a guy like Kevin Na, who I think it was like one of the best putting performances ever that week that he won here. Obviously, hitting it a long way helps. That helps everywhere. We saw Bryson do that. But yeah, I would really focus on what I focused on this morning is approach play and putting, because that seems to be kind of the 2 prerequisites for the past winners here. And we've seen a nice little mixture here of favorites and long shots. To see a guy like Rod Pampling winning here. Smiley got it done in 2015. I'm not sure what he was odds-wise that week. I'd actually love to go find out. But yeah, you can kind of, I think, construct a card here where you pick one of these top 3 or 4 favorites and then kind of pepper the board down near the 50 to 1 and higher range here.
Yeah, I think Laird was like 200 to 1 or 210, somewhere in there. He was a long shot. Pampling was, I think, even beyond that from a yard or from an odds perspective. And then Sung Jae, of course, last year won it. And Sung Jae, we kind of wait for that hot putter, and when he gets it, he's going to be right there. And he is on a heater right now. I mean, he is really putting the ball extremely well. He's got to have some confidence from the President's Cup. But I would have to think, and when I'm out there, I'm going to ask each one of these players. I bet you if I ask the question, do you think you could win here? Every one of them will say yes, because I think this golf course does lend themselves to, you don't have to be a bomber to win here. Kevin Na's won here. So, I do think like the shorter hitters feel like, hey, I have a chance to win here. Now I got to keep the ball in the fairway, of course, not real long rough, but I got to keep it in the fairway to control the spin to these big greens where they can put the pins in some weird places. And if I miss it, I do think short game has a little bit of a value here. And then of course, we're on bent grass. So, you always have to consider that as well. But at the end of the day, we need some looks. We've got to get some good quality looks and make some birdies, maybe throw an eagle in there as well. All right, so let's get into the odds here. Starting up top, Cantlay, look, he's won here. He's clearly, I would say, the class with Max Homa right under him. I don't think Max Homa is really that far now behind a Cantlay with the improvement in his game. But Cantlay 6 to 1, defending champ M is 9 to 1, Max Homa is 14 to 1. And then it starts to get a little goofy from there. Aaron Wise, 18. Tom Kim, 22. I mean, of the short odds, I think if I had to play one, I'd play Max.
Very goofy. I'm gonna roll with Sung Jae, I think, here at the top at 9 to 1 to go back to back. I know you said Homa and Cantlay, obviously the class, but I would argue Sung Jae is maybe the hottest player in the field, or at least the one who seems closest to kind of getting back in the winner's circle here. We saw Homa win at Fortinet and obviously go off at Quail Hollow, and Cantlay's been on a heater as well. But I think it's kind of Sung Jae's turn maybe here. And obviously he's got the good vibes going back to back. But I mean, his last 5 starts, second, 12th, 15th, second. And then he has a really good week at Quail Hollow, one of their superstars that week. I think he had 2 points, probably should have had more. So I'm having trouble not going Sung Jae here at the top, and then just a bunch of long shots.
It's just really impressive to look at the improvement of Max Homa. I've talked about a lot on the podcast, the work he's done with Mark Blackburn, and he's longer off the tee. The approach wedge game is better. I mean, all these just little incremental changes, and you can just see it across the board. He's more of a complete player now. And when you look at birdies in this group on the top, most birdies last 50 rounds, Cantlay is probably going to give you the most opportunities. Cantlay is probably going to give you the most. But where Homa's really impressive is he takes care of the par 5s. I mean, this guy takes care of the par fives now, obviously very strong in the par fours. He's a nice approach game player in that, kind of shorter iron, which I think is going to play out a little bit more this week. I think a lot of guys are going to have a lot of 100, probably 125 to 175. You're going to see a lot of shots in there. But look, in the short odds this week, I'm not sure if I'm going to make that bet. And I think I might just roll the dice a little bit this week and come on down the board a bit and play some bigger odds. But if I did have to go shorter, I certainly would go home. And now, one thing to know with Darren Wise, I do think he lives in Vegas as well. Yep. I know he worked with Geoff Smith, who was in Vegas for a long time, has now moved to Tennessee. So Aaron Wise is going to have some of that course history that we've seen play out here with a Martin Laird and a Kevin Na. Now, continuing on down, we get into Taylor Montgomery, who is an impressive player. I talked about him last week. I think this is a guy that certainly can go, has a lot of length off the tee. Cam Davis is at 40. Go ahead and flip the coin there with him. Brian Harmon, 40. Griot starting to show some life with the putter, and that's a problem for players if Griot's putting.
Yep.
Because he can go when the putter goes, and he is rolling the rock. Davis Riley at 50, Zedenhut at 50, Penrith at 50, and Hoagie at 50. I'll give you Hoagie. I think it's time for Hoagie to kind of resurface a little bit. I think the iron game can go to work here. I kind of like Hoagie at 50 in this group.
Doing my research this morning, I actually kind of passed over Hoagie, thinking he had been a little bit ice cold there for a while, but then he came on pretty strong at the end of the season there. I don't know if I'm going to bet him. That I could regret it. 12th at Fortinet, really good performance, smash the irons. That's going to be a big key this week for whoever wins. Gain 4.3 on approach in Napa. So Hoagie definitely scares me. I actually do think I'm going to pull the trigger on Bezadenhout, which he's broken my heart a bunch of times, especially in the majors. I've gone to him just about every major, top 20, and he always finishes like 37th or something. So he's broken my heart quite a bit, but he seems to be playing really well right now. Decent showing at the President's Cup. He's 50 to 1, you said. Actually fell into a tie for 39th last week. Just had one bad round on Sunday. But you mentioned the short game could be a big factor here. Obviously, Bezadenhout, that's the big area of strength for him, but he also hit his irons well and had a great tee to green week last week, and actually lost strokes with the putter, which pretty unheard of for him. That's his area of expertise. So I think the pendulum swings back there for Bezadenhout, and hopefully the tee to green play comes with it, and he can match that with the putter. I like him at 50 to 1, and probably the safer play is a top 20 for Bezadenhout.
Yeah, I had that circled. Bezadenhout. I certainly could pull the trigger on a top 20. I just been looking at Hoagie, and I mean,
yeah.
You look at these numbers here, last 50 rounds. I mean, opportunities gained. He just gives you so many. He's second. The approach game, strokes gain, he's fifth in the field. You start getting into that 125, 150 range. He's ninth. Strokes gain par 5. He's 22nd. 100 to 125. He's first. I mean, so he's just, this iron game is like ridiculously good. All right. He gets I think he's above average off the tee. I think he's going to get a little more length being in the desert this week. I think you'll see probably on average between 10 to 12 yards longer off the tee for these guys. I think that'll play into his hand. Look, you just, when he misses a green, you kind of hope that he can, get it up and down and sustain the round, and then, have a decent putting week, which is, you say a lot, obviously, and you kind of wait it out. But that's kind of Hoagie's game. If he does, he will wear you out with his irons.
Not a guy you can go to war with, for sure. Not afraid to contend.
I went to bat for him on the President's Cup. I wanted him over Kisner. I wanted Hoagie, but I knew Kisner was.
I was going to mention about Wise. You could play that angle. I know in retrospect, everyone played that angle with Mackenzie Hughes, but Wise was right on the edge there, like Hoagie. Didn't get the look, so maybe a little motivation for Aaron Wise or a Tom.
And there's a Aaron Wise fan club in the betting world. There really is. I mean, they love him because, again, he gives you a lot of looks. He makes a lot of birdies. He's a nice iron player, takes care of the par fives. And then it's just, okay, this putting, which I do think is moving in the right direction, but can he get it to the finish line and win? And at those shorter odds,
it's tough. That's a tough one to pull the trigger on for sure.
Yeah, it really is. All right, so I think I'm going to go Hoagie. I like Bezed in top 20. I could go there. I played Montgomery last week. I'll probably pass this week. And then, you got the impressive Tom Kim. I mean, look, he's in the field. He stole America during the President's Cup. I mean, everybody just fell in love with this kid. And it's going to be fun to watch him again this week. He's got the short odds at 22. So, are you willing to go that low with the Tom Kim? I probably won't, but I might consider a Griot at 50, maybe.
I'm not on Tom Kim. I think the hype Thomas the Tank Train, the hype train is a little over the top right now, but I mean, he is a very good player. That was a big spot, obviously, Quail Hollow, and he showed up. So I wouldn't put it past him to be in the top 10 on Sunday afternoon this week either. But it's just a crazy number for the kid.
Yeah, it is. I think I'm going to stay with Hoagie in that group, and then we get into this next group of 50s. And of course, you got to shop around a little bit, but Pendrith is at 50. I think I mentioned him already. Noren's at 50. Adam Hadwin will be fairly popular this week at 50. I'm gonna bet Mito. I'm gonna bet my boy Mito Pereira at 50. Keith Mitchell's at 50. Siwoo 55. McCarthy 60. Dietrich, I was all over him last week. Look, Dietrich is impressive until we start getting a little later on Sunday. He seems to be struggling there, and that's the next opportunity for him. A birdie fest, I think you got to look at Putnam, don't you? Andrew Putnam at 60 as well. Any interest in those names?
Not really, but I mean, Putnam would be the one I might lean with you there because he does seem to, these 20 under fests, he does seem to show up in because he can hold a bunch of putts. So I do have a thought of someone at 60. We can wait on that. But if I were going to
go ahead,
when you just mentioned Putnam, I'm not betting him outright. I think we'll do top 20. I know you like to do top 20s later in the show, but Ricky at 60-1. Yeah. And I know I've quit him a million times and told myself to never go back. But 6 at Fortinet, he had a good start and actually didn't, throw up all over himself on the weekend like he has been. We've seen him get off to these decent Thursday, Friday starts and then really fade to the point where he's like in dead last by Sunday. But he ends up in 6 at the Fortinet, hit the ball great. I don't know. Can he finally turn the corner here? He played well in Vegas last year. It was the CJ Cup, not the Shriners. I think that was his last top 10 on the PGA Tour at Summit Club. He finished 3rd. So decent history at Shriners. I think he has a 4th and a 25th. So I think a top 20 on Ricky at plus money is something I could be very interested in this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I think Ricky has gotten back to the basics now of what he needs to be doing. That was a head scratcher for me when he went down that path. And now he's back with Butch. And you have to think, all right, we're kind of back to what used to work when he was finishing second in major championships, when he was winning the Players' Championship. So, I mean, this is certainly a field that you could talk me into a Ricky in a top 20 for sure. Yeah. Seamus Powers right there at 60. This Dean Burmester popped up last week.
Mm-hmm.
Dean Burmester at Sanderson Farms finished 4th. Keep in mind, Burmester finished 11th at the Open and 10th at the Genesis as well. I mean, that's a nice little trio of tournaments. I mean, do we got to go back to the Dino here this week? I mean, geez, I didn't have Dean last week. I can tell you that.
It's tough to not be on these heaters by a couple guys right here. I know Hubbard's down here, Burmester. I just generally, anytime I try and capitalize on some guy's heater, he ends up missing the cut. So I probably will miss out on Burmester this week.
Yeah, I'm probably going to pass on Burmester as well. You mentioned Hubbard, who played well last week. He kind of rates out again good this week. I think I could be talked into him from a top 20 perspective again. Very good iron player. Hubbard doesn't get the credit he deserves from a name value standpoint when you start talking about the most important statistic in golf, at least from a handicap perspective, which is strokes gain approach. And I would say he's a decent short game player as well. And his putting is okay, actually pretty good, as of late in the last 50 rounds. So like Hubbard is a real player. And when you start getting odds like we've been seeing with him, geez, do you pull the trigger again with the Marcus Hubbard or with the Hubbard here? I'm trying to pull up his course history here real quick and see how he's done on this venue here. I got it right here. So he was T44 last year, missed a cut in 2021, T42 in 2020. So could he get that inside of top 20? We know that's probably only about 3 shots.
Yep.
Yay or nay on Hubbard, top 20?
I obviously thought about it this morning. I did go back and look. He's had, I think, 5 top 10s on the PGA Tour, and the very next week he's missed the cut like 4 times. I don't know if that means anything. It might mean nothing.
Means something.
Means something. It's tough to string 2 good weeks together on this tour for sure. But he 21st at Fortinet, 5th at Sanderson. So that's 2 pretty good back-to-back starts there. So maybe he's, again, trying to capitalize on a heater with some of these guys is tough, but 7 strokes on approach last week. Like you said, he's an unbelievable iron player. That'll keep you in the mix pretty much every week. So I don't know. That's tough. It's a tough call for me.
Yeah, it is. That's a tough one there. Glenfiddich, the world's most awarded single malt Scotch whiskey, is expertly crafted and made with extraordinary care. Each single malt is a work of perfection. You look at course history here. Cantley's just crushed this place. Of course, Sung Jae's played well. We know that. Martin Laird, of course, won. He's played well. Some of the names we've mentioned: Aaron Wise, best finish T8. Hoagie, T14 last year, and then he was a T7 in 2018. So Hoagie's he's ready to go here this week. Putnam, we mentioned. I think Putnam's a real play here. He was T11 last year. And as we kind of scroll down here in some of the course history, JT Poston, he gets some play once in a while. I don't know if he's missed the cut 3 of the last 4 years here. Siwoo, I mentioned, he had a T8 back in 2021. So that's kind of some of the course history as we kind of keep working down the odds here. How about Taylor Moore 65, McNeely 65? I could be talked into KH Lee at 65.
Actually,
go ahead.
Down Taylor Moore matchup against McNeely, who you just mentioned. I think he's minus 120. Moore's unbelievably consistent. Made 8 of his last 9 cuts, I believe, or 8 straight cuts. Gained almost 5 strokes on approach last week. Top 25 here last year at the Shriners. McNeely's super volatile. Vegas guy, but he's actually missed 3 or 4 cuts at Shriners. Hasn't played well in a while. I think he has 1 top 10 since last February. So maybe not outright, but I do kind of like this attacking McNeely thing here and going with Taylor Moore in a matchup over him.
I feel like Taylor Moore's improving.
Yep.
I looked at him a little closer. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I feel like Taylor Moore is becoming a better iron player. I feel like Taylor Moore's short game and putting is incrementally improving. So I feel like Taylor Moore right now has a good vibe. I feel like he's moving in the right direction. I think that's a good call right there. 65, is he going to win? I don't know, but he's making a ton of cuts, and certainly a top 20 bet feels appropriate.
Yeah, ton of cuts, and top 10s too. It's not like he's
right
5th every week. So 5th at Wyndham, 6th at Rocket Mortgage. He can have a really nice week.
I'm gonna KH Lee. I mean, it is a TPC, right? I mean, this is
TPC.
I mean,
and he loves the birdie fest, like you mentioned. 20 under. He can. What was it? 25 under at Byron Nelson. Probably both years he won.
I think I have to really look at KH Lee as well. he just kind of, KH Lee is one of those guys that nothing really, I mean, he can make birdies. We know that. I mean, that's probably the statistic that will pop off the screen with KH is he'll make some birdies. He'll get the putter going. And then the rest of it's kind of maybe just slightly better than tour average, off the tee, approach, those kinds of things. So, man, TPC Birdie Fest. I think I got to make a note there with KH. I haven't bet that, but I think that has to be played. All right, Woodland, no. Kirk, 75. Palmer, 75. Cooch.
Kirk is Bermuda only for me.
Yeah. Nothing really is speaking to me here. I played Nick Hardy last week, and
that was a good play. I had my eyes on him last week, and I didn't pull the trigger, and then I saw him climbing the leaderboard. That was pretty gutting because the numbers for Hardy definitely scream that he could play well at that course.
I like Nick Hardy. He'll be on the podcast tomorrow. Really excited to catch up with this guy. But yeah, I liked Hardy. I think you're seeing some maturity with the iron game, and he got it done tee to green. I mean, I think that's kind of what you needed last week, and he did that. Got us in a top 20 there. He finished 5th. Hardy was 8th. The Travelers, he really popped at the U.S. Open where he was 14th. And of course, all of that coming off a little run there on the Korn Ferry Tour. So Hardy's an interesting player to me. He really is. He's kind of one of those guys that kind of pops off a little bit to the screen for me. And let's see if he can keep it going again this week. I'll probably throw a little bit of that seed back at it for Hardy again as a top 20 this week. But that might be a little bit of a biased bet considering he's on the podcast tomorrow. All right, Naismith, 80. He's had a little success here.
Naismith for me.
You like him?
Love him. I think obviously a little bias after the Sunday performance, 64 on Sunday, backdoor top 10. But I don't know. Hopefully it's a good momentum. Brings that momentum with him here. And like you said, he's got really good course history here. 14th, 8th, and 18th in his last 3 or 4 trips here. So he's never posted back-to-back top 10s. I went and looked at this too.
Wow.
So I'm willing to try and break that trend here. So I like Naismith at 80-1, great approach player. Naismith 80-1 for me.
I mean, just any pulse at all with the putter. I mean, if there's a subtle heartbeat with the putter, like Naismith can go.
Yeah.
All right. So this 80 range is really interesting to me because you have Hardy, you have Nick Taylor, who you just really did a nice job in proving his case. Now Naismith, Hubbard, and I like Kitayama.
I mean,
I like Kitayama is at 80 at this place.
Yeah.
I mean, 80 is maybe I'll just play all those guys. Just play them all to win. Those 5 guys, 80-1. Let's roll it.
I like it. Kitayama, great.
What's that?
Kitayama's on a great run.
He is. He is.
Those odds with him and keep scrolling.
Yeah, let me pull up Kitayama here real quick. Let's take a look at Kurt.
Couple missed cuts here, it looks like.
Yeah, so we haven't seen him since the BMW. Look at him on some of the key stats. I had it pulled up here. Now it went away. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so this is what it was attractive to me with Kitayama. I mean, he really, again, and maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here, but I seem to be in love with opportunities gained and birdies. I'm just, those are the names that are popping up in my model. There's Kitayama, last 50 rounds, he's 4th. Strokes gained approach, he's 28th. He takes care of the par 5s. He makes a decent amount of eagles, takes care. I mean, geez.
It's a good case.
Kitayama is my boy, I think, at 80. Will Gordon's at 90. I had him in the top 20 last week, and he finished 30th. Oh, I was like, it could have been. That was going to be my play of the week last week, and he almost got there. Yeah, man, there's a lot to like there in the 80s, people.
Yeah,
You need to take a long look in the 80s. JJ Spawn 90, Wyndham Clark 100. And I think a guy in this group in the 100 that's got to be a little disappointed since winning the Corn Ferry Tour Finals is Justin Suh. He just hasn't. I've been surprised with him in his start here to the fall season as we start getting into these longer odds, which we know are in play. Troy Merritt 110, Martin Laird 110, former champion. Harris English shot me straight in the ass last week. I made a case for him, and he just chopped.
He's got to still be feeling the injury because he interested me at, I think, Fortinet because the number was crazy. Same thing last week, but I don't know. Maybe he's still ailing a little bit.
See, I feel like he's healed. And I made the case to Fienberg that I felt like his coach was posting a lot of stuff at him as of late. And I just felt like Harris was feeling good coming out, and he just, obviously didn't play well at all. So there he is at 130 with Grayson Sigg, with Goddard up. Now, if you want a long shot that's played well here, it's Chesson Hadley.
Yes, I made a note about him. I'm glad.
There you go.
I think that's the mega bomb play this week, 130 to 1. He's missed 4 of his last 6 cuts, but the 2 he made, he finished 10th and 8th. When he spikes, he spikes. And he spiked a bunch here. I think he's got 4 top 10s, and 3 of those are inside the top 7 here at Shriners. So I think we got to try and hit on him here. And he's got 4 top 10s in like his last 15 starts. He had a top 10 at Travelers, John Deere. So the signs are there that he could, he can make a bunch of putts, obviously. So if he gives himself some opportunities, I think you got to be prepared for him to be completely out of the mix on Friday and Saturday. And then he'll make a late charge on Sunday. So he's probably a top 10, top 20 play, but I will also be sprinkling on outright because that's a juicy number for a guy with great course history who can make a ton of birdies.
And I would add Goddard up to that at 130.
I would love to bet New Jersey legend Chris Goddard.
See, I think here I am back in that. Give me a lot of looks.
Yeah,
good approach game player. Obviously, Goddard, a young player. Short game, it's been a little choppy. I think with Goddard up, we know he's long. I feel like this could be a good place for Chris too. I really do. I feel like this could be perhaps a little bit of a coming out party for Goddard up this week. And I love Hadley at 132. I think those are all really valid points. I mean, don't be afraid to come down in here now, folks. This is certainly a week to do that. I know we're on a bit of a run here. There's not been a lot of long shots on the PGA Tour, but it's going to happen.
Yep.
And I think even a Steven Yeager making the cut, perhaps the top 20. This is a good course for him at 130. I was all over Russell Knox last week. I won't be this week at 130. I'm probably going to pass on Aaron Ride at 130. I'm going to pass on Adam Svensson, who I play a decent amount at 130. Matt Wallace has kind of turned his game a little bit back around, 130. Yeah. Streelman, Jason Day, all at 130. Now, we get into the 50s, and Vegas said, yeah, I see a Garrett Kiggle last week. Nice to see that you could actually put something together, but you're going to be 150 this week.
Crazy. That was shocking to me. And I put him down for top 20 here because I think he's plus 550 to finish in the top 20. I don't know. I guess they think he can't do it back-to-back weeks, but I'll gladly try and find out if he can because it's just too insane. I mean, great young player. He's won a bunch on the DP World Tour. Obviously won at Palmetto. So much talent, and had a great Sunday last week. Didn't fold, didn't shrink in the moment. So I don't know. That just seems out of control to be down at 150 and plus 550 to top 20.
Yeah. I like Garrett Kiggle. He's a good kid. He started working with Claude Harmon there, I think at the beginning of last year. I don't know if they're still together. But he went away after his win in South Carolina. And now he showed some sign, the lefty, last week. So Higgle's interesting. I don't know if I'm going to play it. Davis Thompson, Fratelli at 150. Fratelli played well last week, I believe. He was right there. Caleb Tarrin is 150. Brandon Wu, 150. Ben Taylor, 150. Scott Piercy, Vegas guy, 150. No thanks. Ryan Armour, 150. Robbie Shelton, 150. Going to be spending some time with Austin Eckroat tomorrow on site, 150. Patrick Rogers, 150.
Nope.
As we're just kind of now we're down on some odds here. I could make a case for Justin Lauer at 150 and make the cut in the top 20. First time here. I could make a case for him. I could make a case for Adam Schenk at 180. He's played well here in the past. As we go back to course history, where is it here? Because he was, hold on, hang tight here for a second. Because, there's Adam Schenk. Check this out, folks. He was T3 last year, T27 in 2021, T18 in 20. I mean, this is a guy, hey, Southern Indiana guy coming over to Vegas. I mean, craps table treats him well. Summerlin treats him well. You want some odds? Course history: Chesson Hadley, Adam Schenk. I think are your boys, and Martin Laird. Those are the three that really pop off the screen to me. Maybe even a Bo Hostler, who we know can get the putter going at 130.
Took the words out of my mouth. That's who I was going to say.
Bo?
I do like Bo. I think top 20 is probably the move for him because he's so bad with the driver. You got to kind of be careful. But he still played. I think he lost like 1 million strokes with the driver at Fortinet and still finished in the top 25. Just had a great approach week. I mean, gained strokes putting pretty much every PGA Tour start he's ever made. So you can trust that he'll putt well. If he can just come back to the median a little bit with the driver and hit his irons well. Good history here. I think he has a 7th, couple top 20s. So I would go Bo. And another guy I wrote down here was Lee Hodges. I think for a top 20, solid week last week at Sanderson. He's a plus approach player, gained on approach in 10 of his last 11 starts. Just consistent in pretty much every area, so you can feel good about him making the cut and then kind of going from there with a top 20 bet. So I like Hodges and Hostler. Hodges and Hostler, 2 H's.
Yeah, Hodges, for sure. Hodges, again, gets the putter going. I think he'll be a top 20. He's going to give you a lot of looks. Great approach player, opportunities galore. Can he get it going? Nice, again, short iron player. I think the Lee Hodges is good advice. I really do. I like that as well. All right, let's keep going here. We got this is fun. I feel like we're kind of down into we're in the weeds now. This is where we did pretty good last week, folks. And I'll give you 2 more names here, and this is probably as low as I'm going to go. I'm going to go to 200 to 1. Okay. I'm going to spend some time with Harry Hall tomorrow. He had a T8 here last year. Okay. So Harry Hall had a T8. And I'm going to play David Lipsky to win at 200 to 1.
Wow.
David, let's do it, Lipsky.
Add it. You can add it to my card. Love it.
I think Lipsky. So let me tell you something. Lipsky, again, you folks are seeing what my model is, and it may just completely tank this week, but approach and opportunities, Lipsky really checks out nicely, folks. He makes a lot of eagles. He's a nice driver of the golf ball. Pretty damn solid in the approach game that we need this week. David Lipsky, talk to me. I mean, I think this is the 200 to 1 bomb. This is the Martin Laird.
Yeah.
This is the who was the 220 you mentioned earlier. This is I'm drawing a blank. You mentioned him at the beginning of the show.
From 201?
Yeah. Yeah, it was earlier. It was like back in 2015 that he won here. You mentioned.
Oh, Smiley?
Rob Pampling. Yeah. So don't be alarmed that he's missed the last 2 cuts. Don't be alarmed by that, okay? It's turning around. This is the course for him. Off we go.
I like it. I'll give you
Vegas. You gotta have one of those every week, right? That just like, okay, I know it's not great for him, but it's going to turn at some point. I'm going Lipsky.
Right. I'll give, I'm sure he's 200 to 1. I didn't check, but UNLV guy, Vegas resident. He's won here, I think, twice. Or no, once. Won here once. Bunch of top 20s. Ryan Moore, I think, might my mega bomb here. He's going to hit his irons well. Similar to your Lipsky plays, missed 2 consecutive cuts. But I don't know. He's at home. Vegas guy, like I said, UNLV guy. Obviously, a little bit of win equity. I know he's he's probably past those days, but he did finish second at the John Deere, I think, 2 summers ago. So can still have a spike week here or there. So I'll go Ryan Moore for super, super mega bomb.
Well, Austin Cook's 250. He's played well here. Now we're now we're into the mega. But hey, look, Martin Laird's won twice here.
Mm-hmm.
Smiley Coffin won here. Rod Pampling won here. David Lipsky's going to win here. Nate Lashley feels like a decent play this week.
Yeah, nasty Nate.
At 250. Like as we start really cranking down
getting all
into, the way. So there's Spencer Levine, who Monday qualified at 400 to 1.
Love to see that.
And Jason Duffner is 500 to 1. God. Jason Duffner's 500 to 1. How does that happen? How does that?
That is unexplainable.
All right. Here we go. There's a lot. We covered a lot of ground there. As I scroll back up, Shank's at 180. I mentioned him. All right. Anybody else we miss?
I think we covered everybody.
I think Carl Yu on 130. I'm going to spend some time with him tomorrow too.
Oh man, you gotta have him do the shank drill.
Yeah, right.
My God, that's ever since I wrote about him a couple weeks ago and saw that's been living in my nightmares. That shank.
Yeah. I'm like, Carl, can you shank one for us? And how does that happen?
Would you ever tell one of your students to shank it on purpose to fix something?
Well, it's funny. Your Golf Digest. We did this series called "Oh Shit."
I know what you're talking about.
And one of them was a shank, and I had to shank it on purpose. And it took me to like the 7th take. I just could not get myself. I could not get myself to move in enough.
Right.
Like it was just ugh. And I was healing it, and then blading it, and then finally I got it in there. But it was like, gosh, I'm not sure I've ever tried to shank one on purpose in an instructional video. But that was the idea. You hit the shot, it's like, oh shit, and then okay, here's what happened.
Yeah.
All right, man. Appreciate your time. Christopher Powers, Golf Digest at CPowers14. Let's get it this week. Make some money.
Thanks for having me. Let's make some money. Have fun in Vegas.
Thanks, buddy. Sweet. Haymaker Coffee Company was established in 2021 to create the best coffee to fuel the underdogs who perseveres, who hustles, and have the give-it-all mentality to achieve their American dream. Haymaker Coffee only roasts top quality, specialty grade coffee beans, resulting in brews that satisfies those who demand every drop from their coffee and day. If you work hard, run hard, fight hard, and play hard, we have your coffee right here.